I left Bellevue, and I was starting to do when we first sort of had the license and under Jimmy's name. Um, we had Pilot Alert who got to the Derby final and was favourite but didn't win. And then we got more into open racing, and we were going to Monmore quite a bit, and they asked us about going on there, and so we did, and that turned out to be a very good move for us, and we got a lot of new owners, and financially, probably it was the best place to be at the time. They were the best payers in the country, and we did very well there. We were there like 4 years, and it was great for us, because it was lucky for us, and it kind of set us up.
If Bellevue had still been open, would you still be continuing, or would
Yeah,
you
possibly. Yeah, possibly. We still had a full kennel when Bellevue closed, and but they were mainly sort of local owners and that kind of thing. And you know what it's like when a track closes. Some people will go to another track, some people will finish racing, and a lot of ours did. And even though we moved to Perry Bar, we went there with a full kennel, and it's kind of dropped off all between now and then, and now we're basically half a kennel, and I'm probably going to get, you only see it going one way really, unless we start, doing like a lot of trainers do and own the dogs themselves. And I've never really done that, and I don't really want to start now.
Pat, you were just broke in there talking about some of your early dogs. As far as I can see, your first big winner was Daryl and Sue. Would that be right?
Well, if you under our own name, or
of course, yes. You had the dogs under Jimmy's name, didn't you?
Yeah, Talk to the Hand, and she won the Oaks. She went unbeaten through the Oaks, and
Right.
very, very fast bitch, but a bit fragile. I got her from Seamus, my great old friend, and she was fast, and we owned her ourselves in them days. And I put her in my mother's name actually, and that, but we owned her, and we wanted something that, when I got her from Seamus, I wanted something that we could possibly breed with, and she was great. She was brilliant on the track, and she was a great brood as well. So it was perfect. We had her, and we had a dog called Bomber Graham at the time as well, and
I remember now.
Yeah, they were the first two open race dogs that we had, and they used to go off together, and they go off racing together, and she was a blue bitch, he was a white and blue, or blue and white dog, and he was a very good dog, great early pace dog, and they go off racing together, and they had their retirement together here. We retired them both at home and looked after them till the day they died, and he was a good dog. He was runner up in the Scottish Derby, won the Oxford Gold Cup. He was third in the Laurels final. Won loads and loads of open races. He was owned by Brian Barry Murphy, who's now working for Man City, and he was a footballer at Preston at the time, and a player, and now he's a coach at Man City, I believe. But
I've got Daryl and Sue was sort of end of 2003, early 2004. That was when she was kind of flying, wasn't it?
Yeah, very fast bitch as well. We had her for a lovely fella from Jedburgh in Scotland, Pud Reynolson, and he just rang me out of the blue one day. Did I have room for a bitch? And she just won in. She was only about 15 months old. Just won in Waterford in 28.70 the night before, and he bought her from Peter Cronin. And so we took her on, and she was a little bit disappointing initially, you know, and we were disappointed with the trials, you know, to qualify her, and then all of a sudden she done a trial, and we were going then, and she won the Northern Puppy Derby at Sunderland, and then went on to win the Monmore Puppy Derby, and I don't recall anything else ever doing that really, to win the Northern Puppy Derby and the Monmore Puppy Derby, because there was such a big gap between them. Most of these puppy races are won by dogs approaching the 2-year-old mark, and when she won in Sunderland, she was young, and she was I think she was an April welt, which was right on the borderline for Monmore, and but she was anti-post favourite for that, and she won it. And a couple of months later, then she won the Select Stakes. Yeah, he had a great 6 months with her.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, after Talk to the Hand, to get another phenomenal bitch like that. And then I was looking back through, I mean, your collection, the Select Stakes itself, is it 3 that you've won?
Yeah, 3. Yeah, 3. Obviously Dairyland Sue and Windy Miller, lovely old dog, and Swift Hoffman. You know, we used to go to Nottingham a lot in them days, and it was a race I did target, and you know, it was a one-off race, and it was great prize money, and it was like being fast-tracked to a final of a Category 1 event, really. You know, so we always used to try and have something for that, and we were lucky enough to win it 3 times, and Windy Miller was second in it as well, the year after he won it. So it was, yeah, lucky race for us, yeah.
And but I guess if you were looking at kind of the highlights, it's 2014, 2015 kind of time, where obviously you and Yolo and Hoffman both in the kennel at the same time. I mean, they were probably what, 2 of the top 3 dogs in training. Would you say?
I would say, yeah. I would say Swift Hoffman was a terrifically fast dog, you know, and without doubt the fastest I've had, without doubt. Yolo was very good as well. Don't get me wrong. You know, he was a cracking dog, and to have the 2 of them at the same time was unbelievable. And you know, we had some other good ones at the time as well, like Take the Crown and My Light Alba. You know, and you're loading them up into the van. You know, you were getting in the van with a spring in your step. You know, because you had a serious stuff in the back, and but they were 2 very good dogs, and we had them for the whole of their career. You know, and with Swift Hoffman, he just needed the right kind of track. He wasn't a dog for any old track. He needed the right. I felt anyway. He needed the right kind of track, and he excelled on places like Shawfield and Nottingham, where he had a lot of room and a lot of room to run. If you put him on a tight track, he wasn't as good. Whereas Yolo would pretty much take to anywhere. You know, he was a bull of a dog, Yolo. You know, it was fiercely competitive. You know, it would be, if he was going into a bend, he'd be, well, I'm going, whether you're coming with me is another story. But you know, and probably that's what was his downfall in the end, with when he clashed with Farlow Blitz in the Derby, where, you know, I thought we finally had that sort of race cracked. You know, with Yolo, he really took to Wimbledon, and whereas Hoffman didn't. It was too tight for him, and I really thought we had the dog for the Derby that year. You know, and it just went wrong, and he was never the same again.
Ironically, of course, with Hoffman, when we think in later times about people saying wide runners couldn't get round Nottingham, he is probably the greatest. Well, I say the greatest. We wouldn't want to rule out some picture into that group, but in terms of wide runners running Nottingham, they didn't come much better, did they?
No. When you mentioned some picture, another
flapping dog.
Yeah, we spoke before about the dogs that were flapping. Another great flapping dog, yeah, and I'd say probably a better dog than Springwood Mickey, yeah, I would. But yeah, in terms of he loved Nottingham. He loved Nottingham, and he did 17:40 for the sprint there. He still holds the record for 480, and of course he's the only dog that ever broke 29 seconds for 500 meters there, when albeit in a trial. He did a 28:93, and such a fast dog. But it wasn't just his pace either. He ran with brains, obviously he had a lot of pace to do the runs that he did, but he was such a clever dog. You put him round in a trial, and I did give him a lot of trials. I didn't give him a lot of races, but that was just the way we did it in them days, and we tried to keep the competition dogs to competitions instead of running them in one-offs every week and that kind of thing. We spared him for the competitions, and it paid off for us. But if you put him round in a solo, he'd probably run middle to rails, and he'd have plenty of comments on his card, mid to rails solos. But he was a wide seed, and he had this knack of just keeping out of trouble, and that was down to the brains that he used to run, and great dog, and he now lives with my sister in Ireland, and he's having a great retirement.
How old would he be now?
He was a September 12, so he's 10-year-old. Yeah. But he's still very well, and he's having a great time there with her. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. I suppose the other one we shouldn't rule out, and I said we hardly got to talk about Take the Crown, which I think was your breeding anyway, wasn't he?
He was Westmead Hawk, out of our bitch, and always good from the word go. From the very first trial he got, he always looked the part, and he was a super dog. We never got to see the best of him, really, because I think if he'd have gone over 6 bends, he would have been something. And very, very good dog, and a lovely dog with it. When he won the produce stakes, I think he won it by an aggregate of 32 lengths. He was that dominant.
Yeah.
Cracking dog.
And I say people obviously think primarily about you as a trainer, but of course you had Mickey Robbie as well won the produce, didn't he?
Yeah, we bred him as well, and he won. He was out of talk. He was by crash out of talk to the hand, and run by Tony. Tony Ford, and very, very good dog as well. Good early pace rail dog. Took to Swindon really well. On the old track, they were still on the 476, I think it was then. Yeah, and I think we had either 3 or 4 in the final that year. I think. Yeah, I think we finished 1st, 2nd, 4th, something like that. But he was a good dog, and he was odds on them for the Nottingham British bred then afterwards, and but he didn't manage to win that one, unfortunately. But yeah, so he was another produce stakes winner that we not only we had, but we bred. Yeah.
Which kind of the other going to continue, not going to keep going on about sort of all the top dogs. There's been so many. This talk would go on for hours, but Barra Luke was, of course, one of your your latest big race winners. But the other one I wanted to bring up, and it seems particularly appropriate at the moment given the timing, would be the other Reg, who
Yeah.
you won the Laurels and the Scottish Derby with.
Yeah, yeah. He was owned by the Joneses from Chirk in Wales, and we got him after winning a novice race in Clonmel. He won it a long way, and we got him, but he was. We had a few problems, a little bit like Hoffman in a way. They did have something in common, them two, apart from both being brindle, but and they both won the Scottish Derby. But when both of them came over, they had this habit of turning in the boxes, and Hoffman was really bad at it. And anyway, we sorted that problem out, and they never did it again. But Reg was a very good dog. There's no question about that, and he was a good starter, you know, and good early, and got the trip well as well. And again, he took to Shawfield well, and it was great for them lads. They've been with us a long time, and they always wanted to win something, you know, and they were lucky to win that. And they have a pub in Chirky. He now lives with them in the pub, and they've looked after him well, you know, since his retirement. Very good dog.